Good evening. I am Clara Nightwell, and tonight I am here with Rowan Hartsteele. What we are about to talk about may sound distant, ancient, even medieval.
But it is not.
The Second Vatican Council took place in the 1960s.
A world with television, nuclear weapons, global politics, and cultural revolutions already in motion.
This was not the Church speaking from antiquity.
It was the Church confronting the limits of a model inherited from an empire.
Tonight, we are not telling a story of belief.
We are examining a story of power, structure, and historical survival.
Rowan, let us begin where that structure was first formed.
To understand Vatican II, we have to return to the moment when Christianity became something more than a belief system.
The moment it entered history as power.
In the early 4th century, the Roman Empire faced instability, fragmentation, and internal conflict.
An empire searching for unity.
Christianity was growing rapidly, but it was divided. Different interpretations threatened coherence.
Diversity becoming a problem.
In the year 325, Emperor Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea.
Not a bishop, but an emperor.
The goal was not only theological clarity, it was political stability.
Doctrine as infrastructure.
The emperor was present. Authority framed the discussion.
That presence matters.
From that moment forward, Christianity became aligned with imperial power.
Protected, but transformed.
Unity was enforced. Orthodoxy became necessary. Dissent became dangerous.
Belief now had consequences.
The Church gained security, resources, and legitimacy. In exchange, it adopted the logic of empire.
Hierarchy, centralization, command.
This was not corruption. It was adaptation.
A survival strategy.
But once adopted, this model would shape the Church for centuries.
Long after the empire itself disappeared.
Vatican II cannot be understood without this inheritance.
Because structures remember longer than intentions.
The imperial model did not disappear with the fall of Rome.
It learned how to persist.
As political empires fragmented, the Church preserved structure, hierarchy, and centralized authority.
Stability became its strength.
Across centuries, the Church functioned as an institution that outlived kingdoms, dynasties, and borders.
Continuity as power.
This model worked in a world where authority flowed from the top down, and legitimacy was rarely questioned.
A world comfortable with command.
But history did not stop. The rise of nation-states, scientific thought, and individual rights began to change expectations.
Authority no longer felt natural.
By the 19th and 20th centuries, political power was increasingly separated from religious legitimacy.
The old alliance was breaking.
The Church retained its internal structure, but the external world no longer mirrored it.
Structure without environment.
This created tension. An institution designed for command now operated in societies built on consent.
The mismatch becomes visible.
Attempts were made to defend the old model. Authority was reinforced. Certainty was emphasized.
Holding tighter as the ground shifts.
But reinforcement could not reverse historical change. The question was no longer theological.
It was structural.
By the middle of the 20th century, the Church faced a choice: remain imperial in form, or adapt to a plural world.
Adaptation without collapse.
That unresolved tension sets the stage for Vatican II. By the middle of the 20th century, the world no longer operated under inherited authority.
Legitimacy now had to be explained.
After 2 world wars, power was distrusted. Institutions were questioned. Obedience was no longer assumed.
History had changed the rules.
The Church still spoke a language shaped by empire, hierarchy, and certainty.
But the audience had changed.
Societies were now plural. Belief was one option among many, not a shared foundation.
Authority without monopoly.
Scientific knowledge, political ideologies, and cultural movements competed openly with religious explanations.
No single voice could command the room.
Attempts to reinforce certainty only widened the gap between institution and society.
Defensiveness instead of dialogue.
The Church remained influential, but increasingly isolated from everyday cultural life.
Present, yet distant.
This was not a crisis of faith among believers alone. It was a crisis of institutional language.
How to speak without commanding.
By the late 1950s, it became clear that silence or rigidity would accelerate irrelevance.
Change was no longer optional.
The question was not whether the church would change, but how much it could change without breaking continuity.
That question leads directly to the council.
The decision to convene Vatican II was not born from confidence but from necessity.
A recognition that the old form could not hold.
Pope John the 23rd understood that silence would deepen isolation.
So the institution chose to speak differently.
The council gathered bishops from across the world, not only from Europe.
A global church confronting a global reality.
Observers from other Christian traditions were invited. Dialogue replaced exclusion.
An unprecedented gesture.
The language of the church began to shift. Certainty softened into engagement.
Authority adjusting its tone.
This was not an abandonment of tradition, but a recalibration of how tradition operated in the world.
Continuity through transformation.
Vatican II functioned as a controlled rupture, carefully managed to avoid institutional collapse.
Change without breaking the frame.
For the first time since the imperial era, the Church openly re-examined its relationship with power.
Not in opposition, but in realism.
The Council did not seek dominance. It sought relevance without coercion.
A subtle but decisive shift.
The most significant changes of Vatican II were not symbolic. They were structural.
Changes that altered how authority functioned.
The Church redefined itself as the people of God, not solely as a hierarchy.
A shift in self-understanding.
Bishops were no longer treated as simple extensions of Rome, but as participants in shared responsibility.
Collegiality instead of command.
The use of local languages replaced Latin as the exclusive vehicle of worship.
Meaning becoming accessible.
Religious freedom was formally acknowledged, separating belief from political enforcement.
Faith without coercion.
The Church accepted pluralism, recognizing that truth could no longer be imposed by structure.
Losing its armor.
This was a direct departure from the Constantinian model, even if never stated explicitly.
An implicit admission.
The Church chose influence over domination, persuasion over command.
A different form of power.
These changes did not erase history, but they altered its direction.
And direction matters.
Vatican II did not end a story. It changed its direction.
And opened a long afterlife.
The Church entered a period of internal tension, balancing continuity with adaptation.
A structure learning to live without command.
Some welcomed the changes as necessary realism. Others experienced them as loss.
The same decision, read differently.
Debates over authority, morality, and tradition intensified rather than disappeared.
Because the old certainties were gone.
Without imperial backing, persuasion became the primary instrument of influence.
A slower form of power.
The Church now operates in a plural world, negotiating relevance rather than enforcing unity.
Presence without dominance.
Every contemporary debate traces back to this moment of reconfiguration.
Not as doctrine, but as structure.
Vatican II remains unfinished because it addressed history, not theology alone.
History never closes cleanly.
What began in the 1960s still defines the Church's relationship with the modern world.
A decision whose consequences are still unfolding. Before we close tonight, let us take a brief pause and welcome Margaret. Margaret, for those who want to understand what truly happened during Vatican II, where would you invite them to continue?
Thank you, Clara. Vatican II is often discussed emotionally, but it benefits from calm historical distance. A clear and accessible place to begin is What Happened at Vatican II by John W. O'Malley.
So it focuses on events rather than arguments.
Exactly. It explains what was decided, how language changed, and why power had to be reconsidered without defending or condemning.
That feels essential for a subject like this.
Some moments in history are better understood through clarity than conviction.
Thank you, Margaret. That was a thoughtful place to pause tonight.
Thank you, Clara. It was a pleasure.
When Vatican II ended, nothing was resolved in a definitive way.
Because history rarely resolves things cleanly.
What the Council achieved was not harmony but exposure. Structures that had functioned quietly for centuries were now visible.
Visibility changes responsibility.
The Church could no longer rely on inherited authority. It had to explain itself within a world that no longer accepted command as natural.
Explanation instead of decree.
This shift created uncertainty. Certainty had once been a stabilizing force even when it was contested.
Uncertainty asks more of everyone involved.
For some, Vatican II felt like liberation. For others, it felt like loss.
The same change, experienced differently.
What disappeared was the illusion that a single structure could speak for all without resistance.
Uniformity was no longer possible.
The Church entered a long period of negotiation with modernity, one that continues today.
Negotiation implies uncertainty.
Without the backing of empire, influence became slower, more fragile, and more human.
Persuasion instead of protection.
This transformation exposed internal fractures that had long been contained by structure.
Structure had been holding things together.
Once loosened, debates over authority, morality, and identity surfaced openly.
Debate replacing silence.
Some hoped Vatican II would conclude history. Instead, it accelerated it.
Acceleration is unsettling.
The Council did not provide answers to every question. It changed the conditions under which questions could be asked.
And that changes everything.
Faith could no longer rely on inherited obedience. It had to exist within choice.
Choice introduces risk.
But it also introduces responsibility.
Responsibility cannot be delegated to structure.
Vatican II marks the moment when the Church accepted that it would live within history, not above it.
History as condition, not obstacle.
That acceptance did not bring peace. It brought exposure.
Exposure is uncomfortable.
But it is also honest.
Thank you for staying with us through this long and complex history, and thank you, Rowan, for guiding us through a subject that is often misunderstood.
Thank you, Clara. Some histories are not meant to be settled, only understood.
If this conversation helped you see the present a little more clearly, you are welcome to like, comment, and subscribe. You can find other conversations here, where history is approached slowly, without certainty, and without urgency. Until next time, stay with us.